Thanks, Raj.
Yeah.
That gave an excellent overview of the trends and the enablers for the supply chain. And definitely a related key element is what about India? So uh, let me take that particular question out there. Uh, India is actually representing nearly a third of the Asia Pac demand for TVs at this point of time. And it is actually growing the fastest amongst a lot of other countries where the growth has more or less, petered out. Uh, to take an example, for just the television, the growth in India is about 32% CAGR. As a shift takes place from the old CRTs to the LCD panels. And it's a very big market. It is expected that it should be about 30 million units in another couple of years' time. So it is inevitable as India looks at its import substitution or more progressively at a local opportunity, global market approach, then there would be an opportunity to explore an India fab. And most of you might be aware that there was a declaration by Vedanta Group to create a display fab in India about a year back. And they did file a MSIPS application for grant with the Ministry of Electronics and IT. And that was reviewed and they were asked to rework on that last year. The reworked application has just been filed again. They had to correct a lot of elements, get very specific elements of their application completed as per due process and to show comment. They have actually done that. They have land that has been identified in the state of Maharashtra. It's in an industrial area, an authorized industrial area, a couple of 100 acres. It is at this point of time under environmental clearance application. So they moved that as well in October, and they are in some reasonably advanced stage of their environmental clearance, which I think is a very interesting thing they're doing. They're moving in parallel some of the things to make sure that they do go ahead with the project on time. And then they have also signed up a technology partner, which was another key requirement the last time. And a very concrete technology provider agreement has been signed. Strictly speaking, Twin Star would have been here on the dais today, but they had to go for management discussion to Korea, and therefore they're not available today. They have their engineers here, but on their behalf, this is the latest update on the display fab project. And this display fab project is now a MSIPS application again with land and indicators that it will go ahead and become a real project. So, like I said yesterday, there can be a lot of cynics who can say that India doesn't need to do these sort of manufacturing, and it's not, India can't do it, and India has missed the bus. The fact of the case is we perhaps missed the bus on the landlines, and we leapfrogged straight into the wireless era, the mobile era, the cellular era. Similarly, the way the technologies are evolving, there can be windows of opportunity that can get created, and India can leverage its local demand to create a global opportunity. I think we are at that stage on the display fab. The Vedanta Group has a very interesting, vision of it. The opening phase one of the project would be having a ticket size of a couple of $1 billion. And then, of course, over the years, they would do a full vertical integration and create a massive $10 billion behemoth in the country. There's something like the solar. I talked about solar yesterday. People said, India should not make solar cells and should not look at solar manufacturing in the country. We go just straight, get the panels in and you can just do an assembly in the field. And anyway, what is the value add in manufacturing? And they'll come up with all sort of arguments. There's no margin, there's nothing, no skill here. And at the end of it, Adani's $3 billion project, phase one, is in a very advanced stage of execution. So I guess the challenge really, the challenge really is to have people who take that final leap of faith, and that's where we are at this stage. So I have just one more question here now, and goes back to our final panelist. If we look at creating this sort of display manufacturing sector in the country, we get the supply chain in the country, people who design for that, who actually create the related systems for it, people who create the display components, and then all of these finally go into the final finished product, creating a huge spin-off. But what is our capability to actually create the capacity, the HR capacity for this sector? And over to Dr. Deepak. Yeah, it's on.
So actually, to answer this question, let me go back a little, same time frame as early 2000, etc., around that time frame. To answer this question, if you start from that side, and you see in around 2000 to 2005, and before that, of course, this was all about CRT in India. And if you look at the front panel, of course, the PCB still was, they had the silicon chips, etc., which is not manufactured here. But if you look at the front panel and its design, all the design part, the image processing in terms of image quality, which you saw, Moyer patterns, all that, we had experts. Pretty much all the panels, about 80% of panels were made in India. Three main companies, Samtel, Videocon, and Hotstar, and maybe one or few more companies made these panels. And Samsungs and LG, which produced televisions, also bought these panels. These panels went into that. So there's a whole large number of engineers which are available in the country, and probably they're still around, who understand that part of the segment very well. But when the flat panel displays came, LCDs came, this CRT industry started dying out very rapidly. The reasons are technical, and I could get into it, but not right now. I will not get into it, which requires a different kind of expertise, different kind of ideas in there. And this whole industry, which existed in this case, which is very unique, the industry existed and it died. Now we're talking about, can we revive it? So if you look at this industry now, it is a lot more semiconductor-like industry. It's very much like a semiconductor-like industry. Back in 2005 itself, when we recognized that this may die, we started this Center for Display Technology, Sample Center for Display Technology in IIT Kanpur, and we started offering courses on displays which go on till date. We have probably trained, I don't know, by research and by, through classes, maybe 100, 150 engineers. We can ramp it up. Even that went into, a slow drive because there was no relevance. There's no need, there was no industry left to who to cater to. So but we maintained all along chapter of SID, all along we maintained, which formed in early 2000. And we have maintained that level from where we can ramp up. So should a need arise, and I hear a need is arising, we can ramp that up. And there are engineers available, at least in my view, maybe at top level, good, well-trained engineers, maybe 20, 30, 50 immediately, and maybe a little bit less trained, as I said, 100, 150, but that can start and we could ramp up this. And we used to hold for industry week-long courses in month of July for so many years before we moved on to flexible electronics and other things. So for us to ramp it up, organize through SID, ISA, now also getting involved to get this visibility and scale it up, that's entirely possible. And we hope it happens. It's a case where industry died, um, uh, which existed and died, not like never existed and we're trying to create. So I hope it happens. I have a couple of comments and a question also to you. Something which we know, but we don't think about the importance of display, and that's why I want to, you know, you know, as long as there are machines, there will be displays. Machines need to communicate with humans unless they're autonomous. One day they may be. And if machines need to communicate with humans, it can communicate only through the five senses humans take external stimuli. And among those, take out touch, taste, and smell, which perhaps can be used. The only two things are left, which primarily by which machines, talk to us. And those are sound and visual. Now you can see the importance, and that's why displays are so important to human lives. And you look around in your home, around you, from what you are wearing, look at the amount, how much how much content is displayed all over this room itself if you look around. So that's it is as long as there are machines, displays will be there, and it's become an essential part of us. And hence it is very important to bring this technology, make this technology, make this manufacturing of such things in India itself. And I hope that happens. From academic side, we would support to the extent is needed. It's as simple as that. And we'll organize whatever is needed for it. Now, you have mentioned about the status of the display fab. I mean, is there anything more to add in terms of what else other than just one or other opportunities arising or something like that, and also about the economic sense of doing these things here, a little bit more economic sides.
The economic sense, I think Raj put it very interestingly, that it was one of the largest not-for-profit industries. Okay. I think it makes economic sense because the market is here. It is growing phenomenally. And there's a huge due diligence exercise that has been done on it by McKinsey at Vedanta request. And it has cleared all the benchmarks for delivering the basic ROI targets that Vedanta Group had set up for this project. So I think at this stage, really the execution will be the key to it. And on that, since we are running short of time, I'll jump straight to the key thing. What do we think will enable success for this future fab? So let me first start with the global perspective from Sid. Raj.
So a couple of things. This is good news that the fab is almost here. And it could be the anchor fab that we are talking about that brings along the goods and services and the materials and the equipment together in one place. Now, that's 20% of the task, to bring all that together, and can be done by wonderful project managers who are very capable, who can do this in India, no problem. Then comes the hard part, which is the know-how, how to connect processes and technologies from multiple subsets of the technologies together to make a good quality display. That is know-how, not just patents, it's intellectual property, but is unpatented know-how. For that, this is very nice to hear that there's a technology partner. If you do it by a new team, it takes half the time to form a team and probably other half just to get a product out. The question is, when you invest $2 billion, you want to come out with the products as quickly as possible. So let's say 18 months to build a fab, and next 18 months you should have a first product out after mastering all that know-how. Now that's something in a technology, in an industry that is rapidly changing and constantly moving all the time. So it's important not to worry about the upfront cost, because they will be easily covered in 3 years of operation of a fab. It is to figure out, how do you improve on that fab? What do you have to learn that differentiate you from other people that are already in the business? So R&D, and it's good that you point out your R&D budget, is substantial. $1+ billion of R&D, almost 15% of their applied revenues going back into R&D. So that level of commitment must be also cultivated within the Indian ecosystem, that innovation moving on to what the customers need 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and to do the activity today in research mode, work with people like Deepak and others to make some of the early stage technologies and bring it to bear for their further growth. So you don't want to do a CRT-like demise by not anticipating the switch from tubes to flat panel displays. So to do that, you need continuous R&D, not to cut corners around putting in the latest and the greatest state-of-the-art technologies and equipment and materials into the production immediately, because if you don't do that, you're obsolete from the customer point of view. So that's what I would like to say, that innovation and the unanticipated know-how integration looks like the Vedanta group is covering by bringing in partners and making a very large commitment. And that will create a lot of opportunities for several of us in the supply chain, whether it's in design, electronics, or whatever the future needs, to bring together your integrated solutions to bear on the Indian TV or smartphone or any other future mobile markets. I just want to say one more thing. The head-mounted wearables that you mentioned earlier on requires fabrication of displays on silicon wafers. Okay, it is not on glass. So now it goes back from large size to small size. Now the dominant technology for head-mounted virtual reality or augmented reality displays is the organic LED display. That's currently how it's being made. And that would require a lot more intensive design and software and image processing to be integrated all on a chip. And that goes into something that is not intrusive, that is more like Google Glass, but with much better performance and applications. So the next Google Glass is probably coming. Nobody knows what it is, but it's 5 years away. And there is a lot of innovations to be done today that is more design-oriented than the display-oriented. We already make in the OLED industry 2,500 PPI. That means 3-micron pixels, which is not the same scale as semiconductor industry, but it's still challenging for making a light-emitting pixel. So I would say that there is a third class of wearables, mobile, watches, head-mounted displays, smartphone, next smartphones. All of that is very design-oriented, software-oriented, but need to be integrated in the context of display technologies.
So very fascinating, Raj. All I can say is, I'm sure you'll have a lot of additional webinars from SID, and we would circulate that information back to the community. And strategic planners in the fraternity will find opportunities to take JVs and business opportunities out from there. Whitey, if you were to say there was, what would be that one thing that would make or break the India display fab opportunity?
Yeah, I think one thing I want to remind is actually, as I just presented, I see the technology transforming in the display industry is from the original, just people look at the scaling up. Now it's really people are looking at the higher performance display. So one thing I do want to remind or suggest Indian fab to be careful or to be reminded is that, as I mentioned, that the transistor technology itself is migrating from amorphous silicon to either LTPS or metal oxide. So I do think for the Indian first fab, even though probably it will still be built by the amorphous silicon technology, but it definitely needs to be prepared for the extendability to the next generation transistor, such as metal oxide. I think that would be the key.
The plan should be for an upgradable fab, otherwise the costs a few years down the line could rebound on the fab.
Exactly.
I hear you on it. I also see that we have only a few minutes left to our prescribed time, and in the interest of time management, I think I'll draw this panel to a close now and throw the session open to the audience. And remember, there are queries and there are responses from our side which won't just be answers. Yeah.
My question is to Ashwin and the team. My name is ML Bapna, currently trying to help Rajasthan government for establishing one ITIR. So my question, which I asked you in the morning itself, after silicon, what next? That is one question. The second is, typically, when you said Vedanta is almost through, the project is almost through, what is typically the time frame for delivering the product? You said 36 months. What would the break-even point, and what could the volume numbers which will have the break-even? And what is typically investment? Somewhere I heard about $2 billion, but is that to start with, or it is at the peak manufacturing?
That is the phase one of the project.
I see.
That's the phase one of the project.
And about silicon materials, what is in the offing, the next generation of materials?
Okay, that's almost a panel discussion in itself.
Okay.
So we'll take it right after this thing on a one-to-one basis. And materials engineering is not stopping at silicon. There are a whole lot of other elements being explored by researchers and practitioners at this point of time. And there are a whole lot of exciting developments that are coming out of it. The industry and the researchers are understanding the capricious nature of some of the elements, finding solutions to it, and building a whole lot of crazy sector-specific applications. There's something called YAPCO, which is a high-temperature superconductor. It's being used for creating a fault current limiter. Goes in an absolutely different sector, power sector. We are on the verge of actually creating the first superconducting fault current limiter pilot in the country. And it will be one of the first projects of its type in the globe. There's a project on to look at a solid-state battery, which is using a totally different set of materials, which is 5 times the energy density of a lithium-ion battery, and not inflammable. You can imagine the impact on the EV and the consumer sector. So, whole lot of things. We talk of it separately.
Just last question. Is there a space for another large corporate to come for the fabs in India, say after Vedanta?
Indian
In your gut feel.
Indian market is very interesting, and the sector itself is very fascinating. I don't think it is just TVs. You have mobiles, you have a vibrant automotive sector, you have, again, a whole lot of other,
You had another question on break-even cost. When you make a fab, you have to select what products you're going to make, what size of glass you start every day to make products, and what is the productivity of the fab. In other words, the phase that he's talking about would probably get you maybe about 100,000 glass starts per day or something like that. Now, at 100,000 glasses and 55-inch TVs, for instance, there'll probably be 6 up on the Gen 8 size fab. So you can compute that based on productivity of the fab, the yield, and the price in the market of what is the break-even cost. I think you're lucky. You're getting some gift for asking the question. Okay. Please enjoy. I think he's got like Santa Claus, he's got a bag full of gifts over here. So the break-even is very important, but it's very facility dependent, productivity dependent, yield dependent, and what is the market price. So sooner from investment to getting to the product is important. I said 36 months for a greenfield project, but now that there's a technology partner, maybe it'll go much faster, okay? So that's not true for any new greenfield fab. It takes 18 months to build a fab and get the equipment in, typically 9 to 10 months of lead time to order, specify, and get the equipment moving. And then typically around, if you're going to new technologies or next generation technologies, another 12 to 18 months to integrate and overcome the know-how. So getting a base of knowledgeable engineers is very important to the answer to the question of break-even cost. Okay?
So, yeah, please. The Secretariat doesn't get the gift.
Okay, my name is Anil Kumar, Managing Director, Excellent Technologies, and one of the council members of IESA. It's very interesting to know the complete technologies, in display area, and what I'm particularly interested is, this kind of industry is highly capital intensive. We know that $2 and more billion are required. But what kind of opportunities it is going to throw open for entrepreneurs and SME companies, unlike other industries where they can do design and all that kind of work, but this seems to be a highly production kind of work, industry. So is there any opportunity for our entrepreneur friends?
Raj back.
So This is, must be a planted question. Do you ask him to ask me? Okay. Because I've done 3 technologies in my life, from basic R&D to market and production. One of them is OLED, which is display oriented. Other one is LED. The third one is solar, photovoltaic. Now you can see the solar cells are made on 6-inch wafers, and the productivity is 3,000 wafers per hour. Now, why do we scale up to larger size and make this so capital intensive in display industry? Because TVs drove the market. There's about 280 million TVs sold every year today. India is how much? 30 million, 2 years down the line. So it's still a small fraction, but if you focused on TVs, you have to go large size substrate because you have to have multiple TVs on top of a starting glass. And then the capital intensity also goes up. But if you're making smartphone displays, I question that very premise that why do we need intensive capital equipment? You need fast processing equipment, even at the silicon wafer level, like solar cells are made today in high volume. If you do that, then you can scale back down and scale in economies of speed rather than economies of scale. So the opportunity for innovation still lies in not thinking like what China has done or what Korea has done, what Japan has done, but see what India can do in the economies of speed business. Because having worked in adjacent fields in solar, optical media, and other places, in Mozambique when I was a CTO, we made optical discs, 10 million discs per day. Each one is 120 millimeter disc. How do we do that? It's doable. So speed is important. He said he can make 1 minute, 1 glass, right? That's what. That's one step in the process. So let's say one final display comes out every minute. If I can make it in 10 seconds, suddenly I can scale down my capital intensity significantly down by 1/10 and still be cost competitive. Because it's a matter of how many products you make in a given time and the capital intensity. So it's a complex dynamics in terms of what I answered for break-even cost. But don't lose heart, small and medium-sized enterprises have a lot of opportunities.
So, there's something that SID has called the Display Week, which will be in May. I attended the last one last year, and they have a zone where entrepreneurs and startups, they are creating very interesting display-related solutions. So it's not just a big boys game, it's also the innovators and the geeks game. Okay, people who come out with the breakthrough thought process, they have different ideation. I have Sri here, who's also the fellow of SAID, and Shri has made good thanks to his career path, which led him through a startup in a display company. Okay, so I won't talk of more of that, but there are opportunities, and we can discuss some of them offline. So there's a question there.
So display manufacturing maybe, but there's opportunities for entrepreneurs also other than that, but still requires polarizers. Those display may still require touch. So that front touch panel may still be required. The drivers are necessarily required. The drivers for row and column drivers, then the drivers for the processing the image. All those things sometimes are tuned according to the requirement. So downstream, in the whole ecosystem, apart from materials, the materials are obvious opportunities. These have to be linked into, they have to feed in, the factory cannot do everything. It needs to be supplied with all these things, and some of them are quite proprietary. So those are things where the opportunities exist, even along with this large fab can carry many of these entrepreneurial activities.
Anil, come to the display week, you will have tons of JV opportunities available there.
My name is B.N. Pal. I run a startup company. I have a question to IT. You said that for the phones, the 3D natural, it is a big challenge. So who all are doing this research, and what is the scope in India to do such type of path-breaking research?
I think actually, I don't know exactly the company name, but there are a couple company in the US studying that, including us, including Applied Materials. We are studying in this area because as we said, as I said, actually, it actually drives a lot of technology innovation, because how to make such a high resolution in such short picture frame. So that actually drives a lot of innovation. And I think company like, if I remember correctly, like Google is also kind of, looking toward to that directions. Yeah.
I'm Vijay Agarwal. Yeah, my question is that it will take about 3 years for the display fab to come based on glass technology and rigid display. Why don't we plan for a flexible display fab? Like, since we are projecting that by 2020 these technologies will emerge. So what is stopping from a startup company to license technologies and plan for a flexible fab straight away and leapfrog? I mean, why do we make something which China is already making a lot of it? What cost advantage it will have, and who are the first customers going to be, and how profitable the fab would be? Wouldn't it be better to leapfrog to the straightaway flexible technology and then export it worldwide and take leadership and come out with new products, innovating and combining design with manufacturing?
So your question is pretty valid. I think it's a question of demand, creating a brand, and then taking a leap. Without any of those support, to leap forward on a new technology area could be a risk a lot of entrepreneurs may not be willing to take. Okay, so that is my response on it.
Say something about that. Sorry, the question that you have, flexible displays, they're already here. Technology is not new. Your Samsung Galaxy Edge is made out of something called flexible, it's formable. How do they do it? They make it on the same infrastructure, but you have to make these TFT high density pixels. They do it on a rigid infrastructure, put in a polyimide coating, do all the TFT manufacturing on top of that, then they peel it off and stick it on something else. At the CES show last month in Las Vegas, LG introduced wallpaper TV that you can stick on the wall. Is 1 millimeter thick and is also done by the same process. So flexible is not something in the future. It's already here. The question is, how many times can you flex? Can you fold it and put it in your pocket? Those kind of challenges are what the industry is addressing now. So it's not some going to create a new tech. It's the same infrastructure you need for the rigid fab that you use for the flexible products.
Okay, one last question there.
I can talk to you further. Okay.
One last question here, and then we're finishing. You can come over later on to the, we can network outside and take the responses with just one last question here.
Yeah. My question to YT. YT, when we saw a display technology, when it starts from CRT, and the technology of CRT was there almost for 2 decades. So, and again, the CRT technology was dependent on the magnetic field of particular location, so it was customized. For example, at the time when Videocon invested in CRT manufacturing, so it was lasting almost for 20 years. But now, since the display technology doesn't have any particular customization, and which is global, then in the other countries where only those companies are in a semiconductor fab as well as display fab, where the government funding or grant, I can say it's 95%, and any investor's contribution is only 5%. Only there I saw it was successful. So I don't know. So it's my question to everybody. So my feeling is for semiconductor fab, what we are talking from last 3 decades. So same thing. The semiconductor fab and display fab is going to be the same. So I'm wrong, right or wrong, I don't know.
What you're saying is very interesting. Full answers we can take offline, but let me tell you, yes, this was one of the FAQs that I put down. The straight answer is yes, we have a very robust government program to support the fab industry. The true disablers of some of the consortia which were announced, we are a party to it. It would not be right to talk of it in public, but it was not the government. The government laid its heart out. Its commitment was absolutely amazing. Okay, for various reasons, not linked to the government at all. Some of those projects have not been enabled. But the path for any entrepreneur is never straight. Any startup knows it. It starts with a particular product vision in mind, can end up with something totally different. So we started with something. Is the scale barren? Is the landscape barren? Is the scale still at 0? The answer is no. You have a solar fab when everybody said there can't be solar manufacturing in the country, and we know the catalytic impact that will happen in the Indian market. Okay, we are having a display fab coming up. We have a semiconductor fab operational at this point of time. Okay, may not be the best, may not be the latest 7 nanometer, okay, but it is making chips which have actually been used in our space program. It's a matter of pride for us. And they're not normal chips, they are radiation hardened chips. And it's not one chip, it are 30 chips. And the ESA board's been there and they've seen the facility, and it is an end-to-end designed to right to the packaging stage. They've got the full facility. So the landscape is not barren. It's actually what will trigger more. And more is happening. And I can't talk of it here now. So on that note, let me close this panel. Thanks for a very active participation. And we'll find a way to give more gifts around. So do walk by the applied booth, and we'll see how we can reward the inquisitors. Thank you.
I'd like to request Mr. Ashwini K. Agarwal, Director and Chairperson for this session, to present a small token of our appreciation to our panel members. We'd like to thank Mr. Whitey. Rajeshwaran. And extend our thanks to Professor Deepak Gupta. Treasurer IESA, to present a small token of appreciation to Mr. Ashwini K. Agarwal for chairing this session.